Welcome, one and all. Welcome into my name. The ultimate Oscar party. There's a lot of Oscar parties going on around Hollywood right now, but the one party, the Oscars start in just shy of 2 hours, and we're going to be breaking down every single category and Oscar pools, and just for a fun time. We are joined at the moment with Rob, and will be house editorial and contributor panel throughout the 2 hours to get as many views, opinions, and to break down the Oscars. The race that has us scratching our heads this year is the big race, the best picture race, the one at the very top. When we all complacently thought La La Land was going to win and Moonlight upset. But this year, I don't think anyone's resting. Lady Bird, Get Out, and Shape of Water, all big contenders, as well as maybe Dunkirk, I understand, today. Is that true? Do you want to break down where your head's at with this category?
Was that to me? Okay, so...
Yeah, it's Europe.
Okay, so look, as you all know, because we've been writing to each other by email for the last couple of days, I am losing my freaking mind over this one, and I probably need to get more of a life. But putting that whole thing aside, I don't know what to do because I'm currently sticking with Shape of Water. I have a feeling Three Billboards has really probably got this maybe in the bag, but I refuse to do the last minute switch. I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to change over to Three Billboards. I'm going with Shape of Water because, as we all know, there's going to be a rule that will be broken this year. There will be some rule, right? And Three Billboards doesn't have director. Get Out doesn't have doesn't have editing. And I think it's really Get Out, Three Billboards, or Shape. And Shape of Water has everything that I think that it needs to win, except for that SAG rule, you know, the no ensemble nomination, which La La Land didn't have last year. It kind of tricked us all at the last second. So I'm agonizing over it. The reason why I'm sticking with Shape, apart from not wanting to switch, is because it's got director, it's got acting, it's got the screenplay nomination. It just seems to have all the chips in order, except and it doesn't really have the divisiveness that Three Billboards has. So that's where I'm at right now. But I'm just like totally losing my mind.
Well, I'm not sure if Three Billboards is as divisive in the Hollywood, in the Academy demographic as it is, you know, in online communities, and that's why I'm sort of hesitant. I have Three Billboards winning Best Picture because actors rule the Academy, and Three Billboards has 2 guaranteed acting wins, and they have the SAG Ensemble nomination. Shape of Water doesn't have any viable acting candidates, so I don't know how it wins there. And true, Three Billboards doesn't have director, but ever since the preferential ballot, it's like those 2 races are now 2 separate entities. Director is for, you know, sort of the style and vision behind a movie, and I think if that's the stat that, if a stat is going to break, then that's the easiest one to break. So I'm going with Three Billboards.
I agree on that. I think
Tom?
the SAG ensemble miss by Shape of Water is telling, and I didn't pay attention to it last year with La La Land, and paying a lot more attention now. I think there may be an outside chance for Dunkirk. I'm throw this out only because critic Ann Thompson famously has a theory that there are a lot of hidden, what she calls steak eaters in the Academy, the voters who work on the editing and the sound and all of that, and those are areas where Dunkirk is going to sweep, I think. And if they're voting for Dunkirk all along those lines, there may be enough there to continue that run for those kind of voters, and especially in such a tight race. I'm still going with Three Billboards. I think the stats on that are too good to ignore. But if there's a surprise, I think Dunkirk could surprise.
I also think Get Out is obviously in a dark horse position, and I feel like there's a slight chance that becomes a Best Picture winner, and that's its only thing that it wins.
Yeah, I do think the Dunkirk's an interesting one, Tom. because it came out, I definitely thought, well, maybe Dunkirk's going to become a dark horse contender here. It got support categories that Get Out and Lady Bird weren't able to get. So I think it would be very unprecedented for a film with this little like wins under its belt. But yeah, I did think when the nominations first came out, boy, Dunkirk's done pretty well with these nominations. Out supporting nomination for Mark Rylance, they really did as well as they could have, and it is this, I believe.
Yep.
I did. You were saying? Oh yeah, go Tom.
I was just thinking about. There is one stat that worries me a little bit about Get Out, is that it's been over 80 years since a movie with less than 5 nominations has won Best Picture, and that was Cavalcade in 1933. But then they didn't have the preferential ballot back then. So, but it is just another little thing, another hurdle that Get Out will have to get over if it's going to take it.
Yeah, you know, I actually think that's a good point. And then I started thinking, like, well, the passion vote is what we have to pay attention to now because of the preferential ballot. And then when I saw Get Out do so well at the Indie Spirits yesterday, although obviously Oscar voting is over, but it might be indicative of how the movie is being looked at by the industry. There was a lot of passion in that room for that film and for Jordan Peele. So for those of our colleagues who are predicting Get Out, there's a few of them really going out on a very huge limb here to predict it. I wish I could join them. There is some merit to that argument that the passion behind Get Out could get it over the line in a race where you've got 3 Billboards and Shape of Water also performing quite well, and maybe, you know, because there's not just one film completely obliterating the competition, the passion could get out there. So I've just been agonizing about that as well.
Mm-hmm. And because more than passion, I think Get Out is the biggest film story of the year. So even if it's not your favorite, there's a lot of people who are going to put it at number 2 or number 3, which, you know, depending on how many rounds of voting there are in the preferential ballot, that can get it across the finish line.
It could.
No, very good points. Let's move on to one of the below the line categories. We'll ping pong items to something that doesn't get a whole lot of articles and stuff written about it online. Let's have a look at the cinematography race. And for best cinema, we have the nominees are Blade Runner 2049, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Mudbound, and The Shape of Water. Rob, does Shape of Water have this in the bag? That's where I am leaning. Blade Runner is a strong contender here, though.
It really is. And again, we have to look back on statistics. And as we've reported at Gold Derby on a few times now, it's been about 12 years since a non-Best Picture nominated film has won this category. And that would give Roger Deakins' fans some pause, because we are all hoping and expecting perhaps maybe for him to finally win. He has been nominated, I think, 13 or 14 times. He's a god in the cinematography universe, and he still hasn't won, and he did a great job on Blade Runner 2049. However, Shape of Water is a Best Picture nominated film. So is Dunkirk. So is Darkest Hour. And then I think you can even make an argument, maybe even for Rachel Morrison. She was a big story this year. She's the first woman nominated in 90 years, which is a ridiculous statistic that we even have to talk about. But in this era of the Time's Up and Me Too movement and women getting more of the limelight, it could be a nice little, it'd be something for them to make a statement that Rachel Morrison just takes the award. So I'm thinking of all the arguments for all the films in this category. Shape of Water, though, seems to be the one that could upset Roger Deakins. I'm still going with Blade Runner 2049. He's won enough, I think, in this Oscar precursor race to kind of line him up for the prize, and that's where I'm at right now.
Sam?
If Roger Deakins doesn't win an Oscar tonight, I'm going to flip a damn table because
you took the words right out of my mouth.
There's all the nominees are great. They deserve the nominations. I could have had 5 other ones who deserved it too, but there is no film that looks as beautiful as Blade Runner 2049. And this is his 14th freaking nomination. Right. And I know that the cinematographers' names are not on the ballot, which has probably held him back before, especially in the times that he's not been with a Best Picture nominee. But I think enough of a stink has been made over this man who's a legend in his field, has never gotten an Oscar. And I think the narrative is just there for him finally, that he's going to take it home. I mean, Shape of Water, yes, often this category does go along with Best Director, so that could happen. The film is very, it has great visuals all around, but I have to put my chips behind Roger Deakins, and I'd rather have him behind him and be wrong.
Blade Runner 2049 wasn't my favorite film of the year, but I have to say my jaw dropped more often at that film than any of the other ones. It is stunning work, and it just if it had a bigger base, a Dunkirk kind of base, I think it would really put him over the top. Right now, I think Shape of Water has a very good chance of taking it because it is a beautiful film. Those greens, the various color greens throughout it, from the workplace to the car that Michael Shannon buys, and it's just so crisp and lyrical at the same time. It's a weird combination, but I'm very impressed with that and the
Oh, sorry, Sam?
I think my audio dropped out for a second, sorry.
So that's a nail-biter race, the cinematography. And I guess the thing is, Shape of Water and Blade Runner are such visually stunning films, both of them. And you could see voters ticking either. And it'll probably be, do they go with the sort of in a Best Picture contender, or do they go with the overdue, visually stunning, futuristic film? I think whichever one's read out, I'll go, of course. Cool. Let's talk a little bit about the music song. Hello?
Hi. I'm sorry, I missed all that. Matt, you broke up.
Cut out for a second. Sorry, Matt.
It's all right. Sam, what do you think about Best Song?
This one is, I could make a case for most all of these. I know Coco is the front runner, but I just don't know. I have This Is Me from Greatest Showman. Pascal and Paul have already won an Oscar last year, and I know my only pause is that it's the only nomination from the film, but it is incredibly catchy. They got the song everywhere. They had Kesha do a cover. They're releasing, behind-the-scenes videos of Keala Settle at the table read that are super emotional. They've really been on a social media blitz with it, and it's just everywhere. And I think it's the kind of uplifting earworm that really resonates for its message and the visuals in the film. So that's what I have, but I could make a case for Coco. I could make a case for Sufjan Stevens with Call Me By Your Name as a place to reward it. So I think it's a pretty close race, but I'm going with Greatest Showman.
Tom?
Oh, we've lost Tom's sound. Can you guys hear him?
Tom, we lost your sound.
I'm Tom.
Nope.
No.
Something cut out with him.
Rob? No.
Okay, so I Yeah, we've lost Tom's sound, unfortunately. Maybe, Tom, you might want to just come in and out again if you can, just to see if that works. So, look, I was having to think about this category probably too much. And I looked over the last 8 years, you know, the 2010s, whatever you want to call this decade. And I was thinking, well, sometimes big hits win, like Skyfall, Let It Go, The Writing's on the Wall, which was a slight surprise. Even City of Stars last year was kind of a bit of a hit. Like, it was a bit of a on the radio and people loved it. Sometimes songs win from animated films, like We Belong Together from Toy Story 3, Let It Go Again. And sometimes you get a song like a rallying cry, like Glory. So then I started thinking, okay, so a Glory type song would be Stand Up for Something. You would have the animated film, that would be the one from Coco. You would have This Is Me, which is absolutely the biggest hit in this group. I think it's between those three. I think This Is Me reminds me of Let It Go. It was just everywhere. Everyone was singing it. It's always on like MTV. It's always on the radio. Kids love it. Adults love it. It's everywhere. And it also speaks a lot to what the world, and especially the United States, is going through right now in terms of minorities and things like that. So I think all the arguments are behind This Is Me. However, Coco, Remember Me from Coco, it gives me pause because generally Pixar and Disney films do very well in this category. And finally, I think Diane Warren has been nominated 9 times. She still hasn't won either. She's like a Roger Deakins in the song category. She's a wonderful songwriter, lyricist, and really so talented. Never won. She should have won 2 years ago with the Lady Gaga collaboration, Till It Happens to You, but she didn't. So maybe this could be her way to win. But all those arguments aside, I'm going with This Is Me. I think it's going to be the showstopper of the night. And yeah, I think it'll be a really good win for that movie as well.
Yeah, that's the moment I'm most looking forward to, is her performing that song.
Yeah.
And let's do outside of the sphere. And what do we think for score? The nominees for score are Dunkirk, Phantom, The Last Jedi, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I think we've got a 2-horse race here. Yeah, but Sam?
Oh, sorry, you cut out again. For score, I currently have Alexandre Desplat for Shape of Water. There is a strong chance that I think Phantom Thread could upset him just because it's so unique. But I think Shape of Water being the more dominant Best Picture player, it's obviously in the race for the win. It just seems to be getting checked off down the line and carried up along with the picture. I think it's between those two, but I'm going with Shape of Water just because it contributes to the overall feel of the movie, and it's a movie that could win the top award.
Yeah, I think Alexandre Desplat is probably out in front too, Sam. And I think if you had asked me this question like 3 months ago, I would have said for sure Hans Zimmer would have probably taken this prize from Dunkirk. It's such an interesting score. It's really melded and part of the sound structure of the film. It's very technical. He has not won an Oscar since The Lion King a long time ago. He's a legend, and it's a beautiful, fantastic score. As soon as Alexandre Desplat won the Golden Globe, I think the heat went out of Dunkirk, or the Hans Zimmer score for Dunkirk. Not that the Golden Globe is necessarily that indicative of what will win the Oscar, but it just kind of started the train for Alexandre Desplat. And I think he's won a few other prizes, and it looks like it's going to be that. But Johnny Greenwood, if there happens to be a surprise and Phantom Thread can win here, I think it's score and costume design would be the 2 categories that particular film really actually deserve. Johnny Greenwood's score is incredible. It's like another character in the film. Even if you didn't love the film, like I didn't love it, but I really loved the score, and I just want to listen to it all the time. I hope we get to hear the scores tonight, and that could be a little shocker, but it looks like Shape of Water is going to take this pretty easily.
Yeah, like Shape of Water is the strong front runner here, and I was watching Phantom Thread thinking that Shape of Water is probably winning score, and boy, this score's very at the forefront of this film, and it is just long extended period where it's just leading the action and just in the foreground. Like often the score's in the background of the film. For Phantom 3, much foreground, and I feel like because of that, it's got a chance of winning. But completely agree with you guys on Water. Other category you wanted to talk about, Rob?
I was thinking film editing because for two reasons. One, I think it's a two-horse race, and two, because there are two Aussies nominated, so I'm really interested in that one. But and they're both the front runners, so I think we're going to get Australia's going to get one of those Oscars tonight. But look, this is where I'm at right now. So Dunkirk won the Ace Eddie, the drama side. I, Tonya won the comedy side. I, Tonya's editing, by the way, has been lauded. I've just been reading articles about how people love the editing of that film. It really drives the narrative. That could be an actual slight spoiler, but putting I, Tonya aside, Dunkirk is Lee Smith, and Baby Driver is Paul Matchless, and I've completely forgotten who his co-editor is. I'm really sorry. That won the BAFTA. So when Baby Driver won the BAFTA, I started scratching my head because I'm like, I thought Lee Smith had this in the bag. Like, if there's one thing about Dunkirk that you really admire, perhaps, it's the editing. It's the way that the three storylines mesh together, and some people found it a little confusing. I thought it was really well done. Obviously, the editors agree. So you've got Dunkirk's the Best Picture nominated film. Baby Driver is not. But we know we've seen in the past that in editing, you get like films like The Bourne Ultimatum or The Matrix, films that are really technically beloved, but not necessarily nominated for Best Picture, who end up winning here. So it's a two-horse race, I think. And I don't know, like Lee Smith is really overdue. He hasn't won in a long time. He's been nominated before. And I'm probably gonna flip a table if he doesn't win, to be honest. I'm gonna do Real Housewives of New Jersey, and I'm gonna flip a damn table. So that's where I'm at with editing. It's a head scratcher. I don't know what to do.
Sam?
Yeah, I have Dunkirk, but I have a sinking feeling because the three things I have Dunkirk winning are film editing, and sound mixing, which Baby Driver is nominated for all three of those. And
the Ultimatum Sweep.
Sorry?
I said the Bourne Ultimatum Sweep.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is the Bourne Ultimatum came in and took those three as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm worried, like, because the editing in Baby Driver is just insane. That opening is one of the coolest things that ever happened this year, and they go for very obvious editing jobs usually. And I mean, that ticks that box easily. So does it pull a Bourne Ultimatum, and does Baby Driver steal all of Dunkirk's Oscars? I don't know. I don't know if it's that well liked or not, but I think Dunkirk has it, but this is a really close race. I'm not confident at all.
Yeah, like I think like Baby Driver was so well edited and the sound was so good. I would love that to get the little mini sweep tonight and take out those three. Cameron film did a couple of years ago, but I do think, and this sort of full circle to what about Dunkirk and its strength is, I do wonder if Dunkirk's going to be a film that does very well in the below the ladder. Like, it sort of dominates that field. So I've got Dunkirk out front in editing. I do too. They're both very well edited films.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah,
so, hard one.
I might ask Chris, Riley, to join us now. Chris, Riley, and Zach, if you're watching. Rob and Sam, stay here till they get here. I don't want to be left on my own on Oscar night. No. Rob, Sam, was there a category you wanted to touch on?
To touch on, does anyone think that the original screenplay is going to line up with the Best Picture winner, or is it going to go its own way?
Wow. It's a tough one.
That's the one I'm having trouble with. I have Get Out currently doing screenplay, but I think Martin McDonagh could just as easily pull it off for Three Billboards.
Yeah. Don't you wish Martin McDonagh was actually eligible at the WGA? It would really have helped us today.
Yeah, just to see.
just to see. But I think Get Out. I think that's Get Out's consolation prize because unlike our beloved Zach, who has just joined us, who is going out on a limb for Get Out in Best Picture, I think Get Out's going to lose everything else, and it's going to win the consolation prize for screenplay. And so I think you are too, right, Sam?
Yeah, I have the same thing.
Yeah, just
because I just can't picture going home empty-handed.
Yeah, with Tom back in, I'd love to get him to quickly weigh in on the screenplay rate.
Yeah.
He's in writing categories. Where is your gut with the original and adapted screenplay races? Can you hear us, Tom? Hello.
No.
I'm sorry.
I don't have audio again.
Can anyone hear Tom?
No.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Tom. And Tom for joining us. It's been great having your insight and thought. With Beachum and Zach Laws to weigh in on the various races. So thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
As he knows now.
Happy Oscars, everyone.
Okay. I like having Chris and Zach together. Because like, you expressed that you'd be crazy to predict anything other than 3 billboards or heads up.
Yeah, that was in our email chain going last night. I could see Get Out winning. It's an unusual year because of the preferential ballot on Best Picture. It's not really like a 2-film race. I mean, you can make a case when they start pulling up each film that gets eliminated on the next round. I mean, you can make the case for Get Out. You can make the case for Dunkirk. You can make the case for Lady Bird being the most innocuous, non-threatening movie out of the group. So I do really think, it's 3 Billboards or Shape of Water. I switched over to 3 Billboards yesterday. I've had Shape of Water for weeks and weeks. We all know the reasons why for either one. I think what it ultimately came down to me was just listening to people. Also, the Producers Guild, I think, is the biggest feather in the Shape of Water campaign because it is also a preferential ballot. But every 4 years we get this longest cycle of Oscars, and it was 5 weeks ago. They voted 6 weeks ago. I just don't know if they were in the same position now as what the Oscar voters have seen, which is a lot of 3 Billboards wins in the past 2 or 3 weeks.
Now, Zach, who are you predicting in the Best Picture race?
Well, I'm call me crazy, but I am predicting Get Out to win. I hear all of the arguments in favor of 3 Billboards, in favor of The Shape of Water. And it wouldn't surprise me if either of those films won. It wouldn't surprise me if Dunkirk won. It wouldn't surprise me if Lady Bird won. I have changed my prediction to every single film nominated for Best Picture except for Phantom Thread and Call Me By Your Name at some point throughout this season. So it's been all over the place. But I'm banking on Get Out for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it could do well on a preferential ballot. I think that in the case of something like 3 Billboards, it's a movie that for as many people as I hear love it, I hear just as many people who hate it. Maybe that's just internet chatter, but it's the thing that we ignored last year with La La Land because it kept winning everything it needed to win. The other thing is this is going to be a test to see just how much this influx of new voters, how much of an effect they really have on the Best Picture race. Because unlike the Golden Globes and BAFTA and the various guilds, the Academy in the last couple of years has really made a concerted effort to try to bring in a lot of brand new voters, voters who are under 40, voters who are non-white, voters who are women, voters who are international. That's the demographic that really loves Get Out. And so if they are voting for it as their number one, their number two, or number three, I think it can win despite not picking up any major hardware except for the Writers Guild during voting, I mean. But like I said, I mean, I've resigned myself to whatever movie they call for Best Picture, just being like, okay, that makes sense.
And that's what's going to be the weird thing about it. Whatever it is, we're all going to go individually, like in our own homes. Oh, I should have seen that coming.
I know. Watch it be The Post.
I'll be pretty surprised if it's anything outside of Boards or Get Out. Like, if it was anything else, I'd be like pretty surprised. Even though Riley, where's your head out with the Best Picture race?
I have 3 billboards. I think it's pretty much all been said, but a few years ago when The Revenant was winning BAFTA and the Golden Globe, then it seemed like it might win, but it lacked key support from both the actors and the writers' branches. So 3 billboards has, has the BAFTA, it has the Globe, and it has, the writers behind it via BAFTA, and it also has the SAG Ensemble. And so it just seems like a very full package. Obviously, there are many issues that everybody's touched on, but that's where I'm at. And for screenplay, I have 3 billboards as well, because even though they do often go for the most original screenplay, I find that they just as often go for, the best picture, as we've seen. And even the times that they have gone for the more original screenplays, like Her or Django Unchained, I wonder if they would have won if they had been head-to-head with the best pictures that year.
I'll say this, too. I mean, I have Get Out predicted to win screenplay in addition to picture, but it wouldn't surprise me if Martin McDonagh won screenplay for 3 billboards, because of all the nominees in the group, he is the writer. He's a playwright, Tony nominee. But I'll say this, even if he does win screenplay, I'm not necessarily going to think it means that 3 billboards is winning Best Picture. Given this crazy preferential ballot, I think we're due one of these days for a film to win Best Picture and nothing else. And it wouldn't surprise me if that was Get Out, or dare I say even Lady Bird, if they go in that direction. So I know that original screenplay, we're all looking at it, anticipating that it's going to mean something for Best Picture, but it might not. The same is true if Get Out wins for screenplay. It could mean that, well, we wanted to vote for this as screenplay, but we're voting for 3 billboards for picture or Shape of Water.
I think we've said this before. I think Zach and I said this on the phone the other day. I think a Get Out win, in the middle of the evening, or a 3 billboards win, talking about screenplay, doesn't really mean anything toward picture. It's not going to give us like a big sign. But if Shape of Water wins screenplay, it's definitely winning picture. There's no doubt about it's winning picture if it wins screenplay. And it could. Those voters I interviewed in the past couple of weeks, 2 or 3 out of the 7 picked Shape of Water in their screenplay category, not just for picture. And it really wasn't like, nothing they said surprised me because it's one person, but it did kind of get my attention at least.
Something that's been said about 3 billboards is that it doesn't have the Best Director nomination, and that's a big step that it's trying to break. But I'm also wondering if in recent years, we've seen the winners not correlate with Best Picture as often. Maybe we're starting to see that with the Directors category, because we had some very strong competitors in that category, and the one that was a surprise, Paul Thomas Anderson, I feel like was just on a completely different track. He had his own support. So maybe it's not such a snub that Martin McDonagh was out of Best Director. Like at the Australian version of BAFTA, the ACTA Awards, they awarded 3 billboards Best Screenplay and Best Picture, but they didn't even nominate it for Best Director. And they used all the same voters for all categories.
I did mention, I do have Get Out winning screenplay like Zach does. Zach has it going along with picture. I think the influx of younger voters and more diverse voters is going to help him on screenplay. And I say it for 2 reasons. One is, as I've been to events and I've been to several in the past few weeks, Jordan Peele gets a scream and a just a response like nobody else when his name is called. And I don't know that that helps as much on a picture. It could, but I think in an individual category where they're voting for Jordan and not just for the picture, I think that's going to help him. He's been on the ground also more than about any writer, attending parties and receptions and events. I don't put that against anybody. Martin, lives overseas, and Greta's in New York, and I don't think they've had the opportunities that Jordan has had. And he's a very charming guy. I think those aspects together are going to help him win Best Screenplay.
I think you're right. I mean, I saw, I think Oprah is interviewing him before or after the Oscar ceremony or something. There's some interview that's airing with him today or tomorrow, whenever. And she was talking about, we're all rooting for you at the Oscars, Jordan. We're so proud of you. We're really happy that you've had this great success and you've made this movie that has created so much empathy towards people. And so you're right. I mean, he really is, working the ground game. And, it could be also if people aren't voting for it or they're voting for it in second or third in Best Picture, they think, all right, I want to at least see him win something, so let me vote for it in picture as well.
The word I meant to say was squeals. They're just squeals go up from men too, not just women. In terms of saying the word squeal, I think if director wasn't such a lock this year, Jordan might be winning directing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got him second.
Yeah.
Well, what was that, Riley?
Oh, sorry. I said that I have Jordan Peele second for director. I hesitate to predict somebody because of consolation, though. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we do think Jordan circuit so well and has such a good chance of winning original screenplay, Zach thinks it's going to win Best Picture. It's in director. I think it's just tough when The Shape of Water is so visually flashy.
Also, I think you have to
leading the film.
Also, I think you have to go all the way back to Ang Lee for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon to find somebody who won the Directors Guild, the Golden Globe, and the BAFTA for Best Director, and then lost the Oscar. We've had instances where people have won like the Directors Guild and then lost the Oscar, but I think he's the last person who's won all three of those major hardwares and not gone on to win the Oscar. So it would be a very surprising thing for it to happen.
There was a turn that year, though. I'm old enough to remember what,
Anyone else have a? Does anyone else think anyone else can win Best Director of Christopher Nolan, Greta Gerwig, or Paul Thomas Anderson?
What were you saying, Chris?
Let me finish that, Matt, and then I'll tell you on no, I don't think anybody else can win director. But there was a turn that year. Remember, Steven Soderbergh, everywhere he went, was nominated twice. Yep. And early on, people didn't know necessarily which one to vote for him in. And I think he was canceling himself out. But then they switched the campaign up because it was two different studios, I think. Each studio wants to win. They don't care necessarily about Steven. They want to win, for the studio too. So his people had to step in eventually and say, look, for the Oscars, we want them to vote. We need for them to pick something. And Traffic is more visual. Let's push Traffic for the Oscars. And that helped him to win, beating himself basically at the Oscars. But anyway, that's Christopher Nolan's going to win an Oscar one day. It's probably going to be for directing, but it's just not this year.
Right. I mean, to your point, I think, if there was an alternative to Del Toro, we would have seen it. We would have seen what you're talking about, where there's a concerted effort to say, okay,
Nolan's going to win BAFTA. He really,
exactly.
That's his home territory.
Yeah, and I feel like with Del Toro, they assuming Nolan's going to win an Oscar one day because his movies show up more frequently at the Oscars than Del Toro's, they probably assume that this is as good a time as any to reward him for his career.
He's not the most charming, engaging guy at these things that we're talking about, these parties and receptions and stuff. That it doesn't help. It really does not help when you've got that kind of he's an outstanding director, but he's not Mr. Personality at a party. They put it that way.
I've heard he's very nice, but I agree he could be a little chilly. It's that British thing. So
yeah.
Dunkirk is one of the only two movies that has...
Oh, sorry, Riley, go.
Oh, I was going to say Dunkirk is one of the only two movies that has director and editing nominations. So even though we're not predicting it, it's not like it's a total filler. Also, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah,
I can.
Yeah.
Chris, is there a category you particularly want to check down or talk about today?
Well, I know you just talked about it. I've got my chart here. I've been charting all week, and I think I've changed 10 times on some things. I think there's about 16, 17 categories that are, I mean, even if I'm wrong, I was wrong for the right reasons, and I'm not going to second guess those categories. But there are a good 7 or 8 that are, and always the shorts, because we just don't have any kind of a help going in. But the only category where I'm like really, most of the categories where I have to head to really think, you know, it was like an A or an A plus, 1 or 1A situation, like Best Picture. They were so close anyway. You just have to make a choice. I'm way off the limb though on cinematography. I know everybody's picking Blade Runner. It's way out front on our top 24, our all-stars, our experts, our editors, our combined odds. But I'm just, usually cinematography goes to a Best Picture nominee. Blade Runner's not that. The last 5 years, it's lined up with director, and we know who the director is, so it's not like you have to guess there. I got Shape of Water, and I said the night of the Cinematographer Awards, it might have been to Zach or it might have been to Tom, before the awards even happened, I just said, I don't know what to do with Roger Deakins after the Cinematographer Awards, because everybody's going to jump on his train if they're not already. And if he wins tonight, talking about that night, it's because they love Roger Deakins. He's won several. And if he doesn't win, they know he was the cinematographer, which Oscar voters may or may not know. And if he loses, I'll say, well, he's already won so many, they wanted to give it to somebody else. So they didn't help me at all in this case. But I knew that going in. I knew, though, that the Shape of Water guy was not going to win, though. I don't know how you say his last name. Zach, you interviewed him.
Louston, yeah.
Louston. He was not going to win the Cinematographers Guild because he's so fresh and new, and they don't know him. These guilds are very territorial. Oscar voters won't have that reluctance. They don't even see the names. They don't. It's everybody voting and not just cinematographers. So I feel very comfortable with this pick, and I'll just have to be wrong if I'm wrong. But I don't know what. And the one thing that really pushed me over the edge was one of the voters we were talking to this week. One voter out of 6,000, 7,000 said, and I thought about it and I agreed with him, said they knew Roger Deakins was the cinematographer on Blade Runner. They knew his losing record. They knew he was way overdue. And they still didn't care because they thought the movie was too dark and too gray, and they just didn't like the cinematography. And that, along with all the other reasons, I just thought, you know what, that pushes me over the edge. Sometimes people just do vote their conscience too. So I've seen better cinematography from Roger Deakins. I think he'll win next time out or the time after that, but I just don't have him winning tonight. So anyway, I'm done on that one.
Well, to your point, I mean, I have Shape of Water in second place for all the reasons you said, and I mean, it all does make sense. Best Picture nominee, Best Director winner. If Roger Deakins, I looked back at all the times Roger Deakins has been nominated, and honestly, I think the best chance he ever had of winning was for No Country for Old Men, which was the Best Picture frontrunner, eventual winner, and he lost to, I think, the film that was the second place Best Picture contender, There Will Be Blood. I think if Roger Deakins wins tonight, it's going to be just because there isn't the stronger front runner, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, so last year, when La La Land won, despite losing the Guild, we all knew La La Land was going to win for cinematography because it won the BAFTA and Critics' Choice. When Life of Pi won cinematography over Roger Deakins for Skyfall, it had won the BAFTA and Critics' Choice, right? So there's always these kinds of bellwethers. This year, we don't necessarily have that. And I think that not only is Shape of Water getting votes, but I think also some of these new members, because of the narrative from this year, might be throwing votes to Rachel Morrison as well. they could also be voting for Dunkirk. So he could possibly win this just by getting 21% of the vote. I know that's kind of a shaky limb to stand out on, but I feel like I'm just going to go down with the ship on this one.
But I should too. I mean, if any of us takes a category where the vast majority is on something, on a front runner, when you go out on that limb on that category, not talking about like a best picture situation where it really is basically an even split, but something like this, you mess up, it's a double hit, because not only did you miss, but everybody else got it right. So, but I wanted one of those, and this is the one. I don't have that really anywhere else on my list. Everywhere else, it was either a certainty or like a 50-50 situation. I felt strongly, and I'll just it's going to make or break my predictions for the whole evening.
Yeah, Chris, I really like that prediction. At BAFTA, where Blade Runner won, like BAFTA liked Blade Runner 2049 a lot more than the Oscars did. They nominated for director, for editing, for score. And then the Cinematographers Guild, which Roger Deakins won this year, we can't trust at all after they awarded Lion last year. And I don't think Blade Runner is particularly liked by the Academy. I don't see it taking visual effects, but I'm keeping it in cinematography just because of that double hit logic.
Well, now I do have it getting visual effects, Riley, and we have seen a correlation between those two prizes a couple of times in the last decade. So I don't know what to go with. I'm just going to go down with Roger Deakins, and that would be the speech of the night. I think he could probably go up there and say, it's about
Listen, I would love for him to win. Now, these people that have waited forever, that's my favorite kind of Oscar win. Kevin O'Connell last year. Ennio Morricone. Those are my favorite kind of, even an actor that's just waited forever. Christopher Plummer when he won. They're my favorite types of things. I don't want to root against him. I don't think it's his best work. Of all the ones you mentioned just now, Zach, I thought Skyfall was unbelievable cinematography. But I'm never one to say you have to win for your best work. I don't mind a career achievement type of award. I really don't.
And this could be another test of the new membership. If, we know that they don't print the names on the ballots for the below the line awards, but if these, those people you just mentioned, Kevin O'Connell, maybe it's possible that these new members did their research and saw who was nominated. Maybe they're doing their research this year. We don't know.
Well, we're spending like half of our time on cinematography. The other problem that I have with that particular comparison is Kevin O'Connell's a former Board of Governor member. He does go to the parties. He does go to the events. He knows how to work. Roger Deakins has really been absent from the whole, award season. I don't even think he wasn't at BAFTA to receive his award. He hasn't really done anything. So you're relying on a voter to do two things, Zach, to know who the person is, because the names aren't on there, and to know that they've never won. So
well, I mean,
it's a lot of work.
I know. I'm hoping for it.
Chris was talking before about making or breaking predictions, and somewhere where the categories where you can either jump up 3 or lose 2. Riley, you let me know your film categories. Do you want to give us your quick breakdown of those 3?
Sorry, could you say that again?
The shorts, the 3 shorts.
Could you break down the shorts for us, Riley?
Yeah, so I would say best animated short is the one category this year where I feel that any of the 5 could win, because I have Dear Basketball, which is the front runner, in 5th place. I think that there wasn't really much there. I can't see how anybody would rank that first, but that's. And then for best documentary short, I have Knife Skills, just because I think that it leaves viewers in a much better place than the other ones. Edith and Eddie, you get to the end and it's tragic, but you don't really know what to do. I like how Knife Skills has a happy ending, but I am very worried about Heroin, just because it's Netflix, and I think I can't tell if they won last year because they just pumped so much money into it, or because voters actually like the white helmets. So if they win this year for Heroine, I'm just going to be predicting Netflix kind of indefinitely in that category. For best live action short, I have The Silent Child, but I do feel that it was missing kind of one really cathartic moment at the end. I think that what it has instead is the on-screen text saying how you can make a difference, but that's unclear as well. The front runner is DeKalb Elementary. And then for animated short, I have Garden Party, just because I think that it's the most engaging and people will appreciate the ending. It leaves people in a good place, I think.
Well, because I was going on a couple of other limbs, in the three shorts, I've ultimately, after changing several times this week, I watched everything, so it wasn't. That sometimes hurts me, though, because then I start getting invested in this one winning or that one winning or thinking something's better and other people don't think it's better. So I just wound up going with the front runners. I went with Dear Basketball. The Kobe Bryant thing is real, him being a nominee. He was the hit of the Oscar nominee luncheon. Everybody wanted a picture with him. And I don't know that that puts him over the top, but when you look at the way that all the different experts and top 24 and people fell on this category, they were all over like four of the shorts. So I think that helps a front runner when there's not like one. If there's not a basketball fan or a Kobe Bryant fan or somebody, I think they're going to split off in various directions. I went with Edith and Eddie. I think that's a really tight one with the 405 one. If you look at our numbers, it's really tight. But I had it all the way from the time I was working on the Prediction Center and they released the short list. And I read the description and I'd never seen it. And I thought, wow, that sounds like an Oscar winner. And nothing has ever convinced me that it wasn't. So I left that alone. And then I had Silent Child until I just started thinking about DeKalb Elementary. It's about a school, and right as they started voting, the situation in Florida happened, and I just wonder if that, even just the word elementary being in the title, is going to make them want to go that way. So that's the three I've got.
Chris, I'm curious, what were your favorites? Because I remember a couple of years ago when you said that Stutterer was your favorite, and then that went on to win, even though it wasn't the front runner.
I didn't care for Garden Party. I think I would go with Revolting Rhymes. I think that was the best of the group and the most traditional. The only thing I wondered as I watched them in alphabetical order. I think that one was last. So it was like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and then 30. And I thought, oh no, 30 minutes. And I thought, what if voters do that? They're like, oh, don't give me a 30-minute after watching a bunch of really short things. So I'm worried about that. Normally I go with the animal thing in animated, but normally they're cuddly animals like bears. I don't know about reptiles. And it has a gross ending. I'd probably go Edith and Eddie, and I would probably go, I don't have the full list in front of me, maybe Silent Child. They often, if a child is featured in a prominent way, and especially in an emotional way, that often gets votes. So that's why I had it in first until really yesterday.
Chris, do you think any of the acting frontrunners set today, and if not, who do you think's got the most chance of upsetting in an acting race?
The leads have no chance of losing, Francis and Gary. I think there is a case to be, not even Sam anymore. I think Sam is safe because there was support. As I've watched things, it seemed like there was just support for everybody else in the category. And again, that helps the front runner. It wasn't like total support in terms of, Allison's the only one that still could lose, only because really the only other alternative, if somebody's just sick of her winning or didn't like I, Tonya, or wants to go with another veteran actor, Laurie Metcalf's really the only other one that would get support. I think we learned a lot, though, off the Spirit Awards last night. I knew Allison. I felt like Allison would win the Spirit Award. And when she beat Laurie Metcalf there, I thought, that race is settled, too. That would have been Laurie Metcalf would have been like an indie Spirit kind of choice.
Yeah, I mean, I predicted
Zach?
Allison was going to win. I predicted Allison was going to win the Indie Spirit as well. But to your point, Chris, I mean, that's an award that Laurie Metcalf should have won. Lady Bird was a Best Picture nominee at Indie Spirits. I, Tonya, was not. Lady Bird
And
won
we
the
found
award.
out they were voting for Greta and Screenplay. We didn't know that going into the evening.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the fact if Allison Janney can win there, then it's very hard for me to see her losing the Oscar. I will say this. I believe the first award of the night is for supporting actor. I think Sam Rockwell has pretty much sewn that up. If he loses that, then I think Three Billboards is definitely in trouble, unless he loses to Woody Harrelson, in which case I won't know what to predict anymore. But no, I think
Riley, if Sam Rockwell got upset, Riley, who would you put forward?
I have Richard Jenkins because I know that we thought it was going to be Willem Dafoe all season, but we also thought that the Florida Project would be a lot stronger, and it just never caught on. We did talk a lot this season about the controversy with Three Billboards, but whether it was racist or not, that kind of thing. And if anybody was going to take a hit because of that, it should be Sam Rockwell playing the allegedly racist character. But yeah, Sam Rockwell just keeps winning everything. So,
and none of the four have done anything the whole season where you would have a raised eyebrow or something. I mean, they all seem to be charming and likable. They're not giving the same speech over and over like Jamie Foxx for Ray. I mean, there's nothing about them that has really made a voter go, "Oh, I don't want to do that." That I've seen or heard.
I kind of wonder if the season being so long kind of quelled the Three Billboards controversy. It seemed like that was really hot back at like PGA, SAG voting. And then the season has just been so long that I don't know if the other studios decided that it was no longer a threat and they moved on to trying to take down The Shape of Water with all these pieces about whether it was plagiarized off other works or that kind of thing. But I feel like nobody's been upset about Three Billboards for quite some time now.
The oddest thing happened this year, though, really, if Zach's wrong about Get Out, and it is one of the other two, the oddest thing, though, if you're going to have a smearing mud kind of campaign, it normally comes from the studio, and Shape and Billboards are both Fox Searchlight. So internally, it was very hard for them to say, let's smear the other one. I think they couldn't. That's one reason why I think it's been such a 50-50 race is the studio has been very Switzerland. They've been very neutral on which one, should be winning here and so forth. So anyway, I know Matt, you need to bring in other people.
So I'd like to call Marcus, Joyce, and Tony to join the discussion. When it comes to supporting actor, I do wonder if like Christopher Plummer is the other actor in that race that has a story or a narrative. Since Sam Rockwell looks so solid in that race, I sort of feel like someone like a Christopher maybe him. Unless, I don't know, Shape of Water sort of wins everything or most things, and then Richard Jenkins comes along for the ride. But I think that's very unlikely. I'm
going to make
that's
one
sort of where my I'm
going to make one prediction, right? Okay. I predict there's going to be at least one joke about Christopher Plummer during tonight's telecast. I don't know if it's going to be in regards to him replacing all the other nominees, or maybe they're going to say he is now Kaiser Soze. But I can predict there's going to be at least one joke about Christopher Plummer, and that'll probably be the one time his name is called tonight. So, all due respect to Mr. Plummer, who I'm glad was nominated for a phenomenal performance.
Well, as I exit out and the others exit, I want to just say Prediction Center is still open. If anybody wants to make changes, you can still do that. Also, don't forget to join the post show tonight, right after the ceremony, when Matt will host a bunch of our contributors as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fun talking about the winners. Like, we know who's won. Many weeks talking about who we think's going to win. It's going to be fun to have a chat about who actually won the Oscars.
And when Get Out wins, you'll know where to find me to ask how I predicted that one.
Zach, you still have about half an hour to change that prediction.
Nope. I'm going down. I am. If I'm right, and I change it, I will hate myself for an entire year until I do it all over again.
Well, we all hate you anyways. So
Okay, well, speaking of Get Out, Zach and Riley, that's what you can do now, as we're joined by Tony and Marcus, and hopefully Joyce
Marcus
is coming
is,
in.
I need to say this from an advertising standpoint. Marcus's appearance tonight is brought to you by Oreo. Okay, we're exiting.
Bye, guys.
Hey,
Oh,
bye.
that's good. See you guys. Thank you so much, Chris, Zach, and Riley, for your thoughts. Marcus, Dixon, ending in the Best Picture stakes.
You're breaking up a little. Are you asking me about Best Picture?
But yeah.
Okay. Best Picture is
Marcus.
probably going to be Three Billboards. But it could. I give Zach some crap, but I have Get Out in second place. I really think it's possible. I also think Shape of Water is possible. Anything other than those three is really going to surprise me. But I'm sticking with Three Billboards.
Okay. What do you think, Joyce?
Yeah, I have Three Billboards too, and I totally agree. I think those are the top three. I think Lady Bird's fallen out the past couple weeks. Although I feel like yesterday their screenplay win gave a lot of people like some false hope that it could maybe just sneak off with, Best Picture and nothing else. But I think it's going to be Three Billboards. I had like Shape of Water for a really long time, but I just switched a couple days ago.
What made you switch, Joyce?
I was just like thinking about how like their Three Billboards main support is the actors. And I feel like even though it may not win, 50%, 50.1 off the bat, it might have enough to push it over later on just from the support from the actors.
Yeah. What do you think, Tony?
I'm on the Zach train. I'm predicting Get Out. Not confident about it, but I'm also too stubborn to switch at this point. And I feel like the one thing that has always held me back from predicting Three Billboards is the preferential ballot. And Get Out has this kind of passion support that I'm basically just rehashing everything Zach said in the previous segment. And I can't, I'm going to go down with that ship at this point. I will not switch from that. And
Early in the ceremony, if Get Out wins original screenplay, I may start thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be Get Out. Whereas if Three Billboards wins screenplay, I guess what I'm saying is whatever wins original screenplay is probably going to win picture. Do you think those two are going to line up?
I think the last 5 Best Picture winners have won a writing award. And I say that's picking Get Out for original screenplay and not picture.
So you think they'll split?
Yeah, I feel like Get Out's not going to walk away empty-handed, whether that's just going to be screenplay or screenplay and picture. I can't see it leaving with nothing, whereas I can see Lady Bird leaving with nothing.
So, yeah. Joyce, are you saying that if Three Billboards wins best screenplay now?
You just cut out there.
If Three Billboards wins get Best Picture in the bag.
I don't think I think the only screenplay winner where I will be like they have picture in the bag is if Shape of Water wins screenplay, because no one is picking that at all. But like regardless of whether Three Billboards or Get Out wins screenplay, I would feel a little bit better if Three Billboards wins about my Best Picture prediction. But I could, in that scenario, I could still see Get Out winning picture because of the preferential ballot. So shorter answer is if Shape of Water wins original screenplay, I think it's winning picture.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting to be different from you three. Not to be different from you three, but I am. Shape of Water, I think, is the front runner. Big nations, and we think it's going to win Best Director. and I think that's putting it in a very good position. And I think it will give them 3 billboards will. So
the thing about Shape for me is it doesn't feel important enough. I mean, look at Spotlight and look at Moonlight. You know, these are really important culturally and historical films. This year, Get Out is very important. The Post is important, and 3 Billboards is as well. I don't really see a lot of importance with Shape of Water.
I
yes,
think
it's a beautiful film.
It's a story about inclusion and, you know, outcasts and stuff. Like it is important that way, but I feel like a lot of the talk about it is about the fish sex and stuff. Like it has like a lot of other hot topics before people actually talking about this, the actually, you know, meaningful story behind it with, you know, this mute woman found love with an amphibious man.
Yeah, I'm just kind of the same way. I think it's a mistake. I think that people make that they immediately go to the Shape of Water. It's this movie about fish sex. I was like, that's really not the point, but that's where a lot of people go. And I just find it hard to believe. The only reason I'm not predicting it is simply because there are people that just see it as a fish sex movie, which is unfair and small-minded, but you know, that's the voting that we're dealing with.
When's the last time a Best Picture winner went to like a love story? It's been a while. Shakespeare in Love, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah. Because...
Matt, are we convincing you to switch?
I'm sticking with 3 Billboards missing out on that director nomination was telling.
Yeah.
So that's...
I mean, they all have
sort of
something working against them. And I feel like the director one, it's the one that was broken the most recently. Because that was only 5 years ago, whereas, you know, like something like Get Out they're fighting against no below the line nominations, and Ordinary People was the last one to do that. Like a lot of these, their stats are like way older than 5 years.
Last year when
I'd even be on the Get Out train.
Last year when
or cinematography.
Sorry, Matt, you're cutting out.
Sorry, go Marcus.
Last year when La La Land lost, I remember I think I said in the Slugfest, I'm never going against the actors again, because the actors, you know, the SAG Awards, it didn't get in there for SAG Ensemble. So a lot of people, including me, I was picking Shape of Water for a while, and then I realized, like, no, I said last year I would not do this again. So that was part of the reason I switched to 3 Billboards.
I wonder if... Sorry, Anthony?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, so which stat do you think is going to be the one to fall this year?
I think Joyce is right, the director one, because I mean, it really depends on what movie you're picking, but since I'm picking 3 Billboards, that means the director's stat will go away. And I mean, frankly, no one looked at that movie, 3 Billboards, as a directorial achievement. I mean, it's praised for its writing, it's praised for its acting, and that's what it's going to win.
Yeah. And there's been such a split between director and picture in recent years. Oh, it's like there's been such a split. Like for the last 5 picture director winners, there's been a split. So I think people look at those 2 categories separately now, and with the preferential ballot, you just have no idea. Like it could line up, it could not.
Yeah. Let's switch gears to some of the categories we haven't touched on yet. Sounding this year completely mirror each other. They are the same nominees. So I'll read out the nominees for those categories, and then we'll go down the line. You can give your thoughts on if you think the same film will win both, if it'll be split. The nominees are Baby Driver, Blade Runner 2049, Kirk, Shape of Water, and Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Tony, where are you coming down on these?
I was thinking about being daring and going with Baby Driver, but if I'm going to take such a big risk in Best Picture, I figure I want to be a little bit safer in the other categories. So I'm going with Dunkirk, and there's really no reason not to go with Dunkirk on both of those categories. It's a war movie. It's such a technical achievement, and I think those will be kind of Dunkirk's consolation prizes.
Joyce?
And editing.
Yeah, I have Dunkirk too. It's a war movie. Although, you still can't hear Tom Hardy in any Christopher Nolan movie, but I think they'll just check off Dunkirk for both sounds. And, I feel like half the members don't even know the difference, and either they abstain from voting or they just vote for the same thing in both of them.
Yeah. Marcus?
I've got Dunkirk winning both. I think it's safe for editing. If there was an upset, it would be probably in sound mixing for Baby Driver, for the way they incorporated all the music into, flawlessly into the film. But I'm not gutsy enough to pick that. I think they're going to go with the Best Picture nominee, the war epic. I agree with Tony too. It's also going to win film editing.
Yeah, I just switched back to Dunkirk for that because I had Baby Driver for a while, just because it's the flashiest and most obvious editing. Yeah. But, like Dunkirk has the 3 timelines. I think some people, like we've seen some anonymous voters say they're confused by it, but I think there's enough people who admire and respect it and understand it. Like, I don't think it's that confusing. And it's a war movie that they always do well in editing too.
I would love if I Tanya won film editing. That would just be amazing.
Oh, I know.
You just beat me to it. That's exactly what I was going to say.
But I also feel like I, Tanya would maybe kind of dilute some of the votes for Baby Driver because they're both edited in a similar fashion.
And there's not an alternative. There's not an alternative. Like we've seen. Oftentimes films with the most editing and the most like a Mad Max Fury Road. The difference is Baby Driver doesn't quite fit into that importance or that critical acclaim.
It doesn't have any above the line nominations like Mad Max or Whiplash.
Yeah.
Plus, voters who didn't really watch the film, that's not a good title. Baby Driver. I'm sorry,
they're just not. Yeah.
And it lost the Ace Comedy Eddie to I, Tanya.
That's true. And I, Tanya just won last night, right, at the Spirits, but it wasn't up against some of these others.
I think it only won because it was the sole Oscar nominee of the bunch.
Let's talk about some of the feature races outside of Best Picture. Marcus, I know favorite movies of the year. Can anything beat it?
Which one?
I know Coco.
Yes.
Was one of your beat it for animated feature.
Nothing is taking down Coco. Coco is, it was so good. And anyone who says otherwise, I think Rob Licuria hated Coco. Something's wrong with you, Rob, if you're watching this. It's in he's evil in his soul, I think.
He's heartless.
It's such a good movie, and it's going to win song as well. It's just so good.
Love Coco. All about Coco.
Is that the biggest lock of the night?
It should be that or Gary Oldman, one of the two.
And hair and makeup.
Gary Oldman. Call Me by Your Name, an adapted screenplay.
Right.
That's a pretty big walk of the.
I'm so excited for that category. I can't even tell you. Just to see James Ivory get
Joyce and Tony, do you
have?
Yeah. Documentary feature and the foreign language feature category.
I have the frontrunners in both Faces, Places and A Fantastic Woman. I can see Icarus winning documentary because it feels more important, and with the Olympics just wrapping up. But I don't know, like I feel like Agnes Varda, like she's enough of a legend, and it's kind of it's the only one that feels different. It's like the apple in a bag of oranges of those nominees. And I feel like JR has been campaigning with that cardboard cutout of Anya's. And he's been like filming videos of like Martin Scorsese and like Robert De Niro. I don't know. I personally just want to see them win because I want to see her give a speech and I want them to bring out one of the cardboard cutouts. And Fantastic Woman, I think just the climate will propel her to a win, but I can see the square or the insult winning that.
What's Tom's old theory about foreign language film? That the voters don't watch it; they just go based on the who has the best title. And I think A Fantastic Woman has a really good title.
Yeah, because I
Tony,
like.
do you have what did you say?
I'm going exactly with what Joyce said. I think Faces Places. It's not only the fact that it's so different from the other films. It's different in that whereas the other films have a heavier, sometimes downright depressing subject matter. Faces Places is such a joyous film. It just makes you happy. And Agnes Varda is such a character, and JR is such a character. So I just feel like that one. Icarus, I didn't like Icarus as much as everybody else did.
I loved Icarus. Oh, I love it.
I found it kind of schizophrenic, but I could totally see it winning on the timeliness. But I just think Faces Places is kind of reminds me of those uplifting documentaries that tend to win, something like 20 Feet from Stardom or Searching for Sugar Man. It makes you happy. And as for the foreign language film, I don't really care which one wins because my favorite foreign film, BPM, didn't even get nominated. But I'm going with Fantastic Woman for exactly just the reason that I think it's Daniela Vega's been very visible in connection with that film. So I think just it seems like the right film in that category.
What you would and Gary Oldman was the biggest cakewalk. He is nominated against Timothy Day-Lewis and Fred for his alleged final role in cinema, Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out, and Denzel Washington from if anyone were to beat him, who would it be, Joyce?
I have Timothy Chalamet in second. I don't actually think he can beat him, but I feel like he's just been the default runner-up this whole season to him. I could actually see Daniel Day-Lewis winning, just because it is his final role and they love him so much. But I think with Timothy, if enough of the new membership, like if they're feeling Calling by Your Name and him, they could push him over. But I mean, it's Scaries all the way.
Yes.
Timothy would beat the record by how many years, Joyce? 7, 8 years?
7 years.
I think he is going to be the front runner, and one day he'll win his Oscar. But it's just bad timing with Gary Oldman. I mean, the moment we saw, an image of Gary Oldman dressed or made up like Churchill, I think we all knew, this could be Gary's Oscar.
Yeah, like his biggest hurdle was the Globes, and once he cleared that, it was smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Tony, can anyone beat Frances McDormand in 3? She is nominated against Sally Hawkins from The Shape of Water, Saoirse Ronan from Lady Bird, Margot Robbie, Tonya, and Meryl Streep, The Post. To me, there is such strong competition in this race.
Yeah, there is a lot. We keep talking about, Frances McDormand and all the acting categories as being such locks. I think with this category in particular, what's so great about it is that even though Frances McDormand is such a front runner, I think nobody has any quarrels with any of really the other nominees. They're all just spectacular performances. Prior to the nominations, I would have said that that Margot Robbie would have been Frances McDormand's biggest rival, because we saw this. There was a short period of time where we really thought I, Tonya was really starting to pick up steam, and then it missed out on some key nominations, and then Frances just keeps winning and keeps winning. So I think that probably her closest competition is probably Saoirse, but Frances has got this locked up, and I just can't wait to see what she says when she gets up there. Her speech is one of the ones I'm looking forward to most.
Yesterday's speech was so good.
I was at the Indie Spirits yesterday, and I saw her at a table. I walked over. I'm like, "Are you excited for tomorrow? Are you excited for the Oscars?" And she goes, "I'm excited. It's the last one." So I don't think she likes these award ceremonies, but we all like watching her at them.
Especially when she shows up in pajamas and slippers. Hello.
Yeah.
Fuzzy pink slippers.
Fuzzy pink slippers.
I just love that she did no campaigning at all, and she's about to win her second Best Actress Oscar. Like she doesn't walk any red carpets. She just shows up for the actual show. She does no like talk shows or interviews or sit downs. Like I think she just had that one New York Times profile.
Yeah.
If I was a voter, I loved The Post so much. I would vote for Meryl Streep, but I don't think this is going to be the one that puts her in the four-timers.
This is the category I'm most upset that it didn't have any split winners, because it's so competitive with such great performances, and like I'm really sad like no one disrupted. Like I have no problem with Frances winning the Oscar, but I'm sad like no one else won something along the way.
Yeah.
I think for some voters, it's Lady Bird to vote for Saoirse Ronan, like a film that is probably on Gold Joby projections not going to walk away. It's got a solid chance in screenplay for sure of upsetting, but it's a bit of a shame that and this is the Lady Bird for the actress who played Lady Bird. But I agree, Frances McDormand is comfortably out. Joyce, were there any other categories you wanted to touch on that we haven't yet?
I don't know.
Did you guys talk about visual effects yet?
We have not talked about visual effects yet.
A lot of people are picking War for the Planet of the Apes, and I just don't see that happening.
I have Blade Runner.
Yeah, I have Blade Runner. They've had two chances to reward this franchise, and they didn't do it either time. And so why this time? I don't get.
And I think like if you're going by the logic of everyone's gonna vote for Apes to honor the franchise, you need to assume that all the voters know that Apes has never won before, which I don't think they do.
Right.
Yes. I'd like to Tony. Oh no, sorry. I'd like to ask Charles. Tony, you're already here. Charles, Charles, Daniel, and Amanda with Joyce, Tony, and Marcus. And oh no, my fabric's fallen down.
Are you going to drink that champagne, Matt?
During the Oscars. About 30 minutes till the show. So just so we don't miss the Oscars, I'm going to set my egg timer for 25 show done by the time the Oscars are ready to start. So that.
Hey Matt, are you going to drink that champagne, or are you just going to let us sit there?
Yeah. So can you hear the ticking? Is the ticking annoying?
No, what's annoying is that you have champagne on your desk and you're not drinking it.
That's punishable by time in prison in Australia, Matt. You should know better.
Yeah.
Wait, I missed something. What happened?
Okay.
He has champagne and is not drinking it.
I know. It's probably warm now.
Because it's been sitting out there for 90 minutes.
Oh, God. Oh.
And I thought we were only allowed to drink in the post show. Like someone's
awesome fresh for the post show. Well, thank you, Joyce, Marcus, and Tony, for chatting the Oscars with us and breaking them down with us. Amanda, we're joined by Daniel, Charles, and Amanda now to round up this section of the post show. And we were just talking about visual effects. You said that was a category you had an opinion on and wanted to weigh in on. Amanda, what's your visual effects thoughts?
I think you have to look at the year Interstellar won. And I think a lot of people thought Captain America might win Marvel's first Oscar. But Interstellar was the most likely of the 5 to be nominated for Best Picture. And of the 5 movies up for visual effects this year, I think we can agree Blade Runner is probably, given the nominations it's racked up, the most likely to have been nominated. So that's why I'm going with Blade Runner.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fair. The nominees for visual effects are Blade Runner 2049, Guardians of the Galaxy, Kong Skull Island, Slash Jedi, and War for Planet of the Apes. And I quite like how there's sort of no Best Picture nominees there. We got a few different films that aren't rare at the Oscars. Daniel, where are you landing on Best Picture?
I'm sticking with Shape of Water. I think the one thing that would have that was going to change my opinion, if anything, would have been if not only Three Billboards winning BAFTA for picture, but like if Martin McDonagh had won director at BAFTA, then I'd be like, yeah, this is over. But like we've still seen the strength from Shape of Water. I think it will be. It does have the identification issue where it's the fish sex movie, but I don't think it's going to be quite as divisive as Three Billboards, which depends on how diverse the Academy has gotten in just the last 2 years. Though we do have 774 voters this year who are voting for the very first time, so we have no way to know what they think. It's almost 10% of the Academy right there. Producers Guild, Directors Guild, not always reliable, but then neither is BAFTA. I'm just sticking with Shape of Water.
I'm with you, Daniel. What do you think, Charles?
Well, before I say this, I want to welcome Tom, our illustrious leader, to our discussion. He's alive. Thank God for that.
Oh my gosh! I'm glad he got out of the snow. Oh,
yeah. We'll let you tell your life-saving journey in just a moment. But
it's going to be a short documentary next year, kind of the Revenant style.
I love it, and it will be shot by Emmanuel Lubezki. I'm sticking with Three Billboards. I understand that this is, to me, I think this is a unique year where we have all of these potential winners, but each one of them has these very noticeable cons where, with any other film, you would normally say, oh, that's a disqualifying thing right there. That's something we could just write it off. And as someone who has gotten Best Picture wrong the last 3 years, I'm just looking to be right, for Christ's sake. That's all I want. So that's why I'm picking it. And I have it going along for original screenplay as well.
I don't know, Charles. If you're right, pick what I'm picking, Shape of Water. Although I have also had a disastrous track record of best picture predictions last couple of years too. With Tom O'Neill, me and Daniel are saying Shape of Water, but you've been with Three Billboards for a very long time this season. Do you want to weigh in on this best picture discussion, Tom?
Yeah, what really troubles me is while I retain faith in my Three Billboards prediction, I keep seeing lack of evidence of it. For example, our own Chris Beachum just interviewed 7 Oscar voters, and not a single one of them was voting for Three Billboards, and only, I think, 2 or 3 at the most even had it ranked. There is a real backlash against this movie that's almost inexplicable. People get very, very emotionally enraged by it. I think they're offended by the rage in the movie on one hand, and I think that the kooky plot twists and the flip of characters that it becomes so bizarre and stretching believability really tick people off. That said, it's overperformed at BAFTA, overperformed at the Globes, and overperformed at SAG. So it's a puzzle. But Shape of Water is beloved by everyone. So that got the most votes of the small canvassing that we did of Oscar voters. I'm saying Three Billboards, but not with great confidence.
That prediction center might still be open, Tom. It's not too late to go and get in there at Gold Derby
No.
I was
comment.
making changes 15 minutes ago.
Make a
so
switch. Amanda, what do you think?
I'm going with 3 billboards. It's done too well throughout the season, and the backlash has yet to hurt it. And I think I told Rob and Marcus when we were talking way before anything happened in the season that I wasn't going to make the same mistake 3 years in a row, and that was going for a film that was not nominated for SAG Ensemble. And when you look at the cast of Shape of Water, there's absolutely no reason that cast should have been left out. There's really no reason a cast with that many likable and well-known actors should have been on the sidelines. So I'm going with 3 billboards. I think it has the support of the acting branch, which you need. I think Martin McDonagh is the writer's writer of that category. And we don't know if he was at the WGA, if he was WGA eligible, if he would have won. He might have won. And then we wouldn't even be thinking about it. But if Get Out or Lady Bird wins, it could be the only award they win of the night, and it still wouldn't surprise me.
Fair to Shape of Water, it has 3 acting nominations. There is no support in the acting branch for The Shape of Water.
But 3 billboards got 2 supporting actor nominees, and it's been 26 years since that's happened. So that is a big hurdle to cross to get those 2 in there when you think of the fact that Spotlight couldn't do it.
Yeah.
A couple years ago when it had Stanley Tucci and, oh gosh, it had other actors that were available that could have been nominated. So it's a big deal to get 2 in there.
Yeah, that's fair. I just do also wonder if the lost La La Land the win last year. It's a bit of like sort of, oh, like this is something it missed out on. More just there was passion behind Moonlight, and a bit of sort of the preferential ballot helped Moonlight more than necessarily. Like, do you think about that, Tom?
Oh, Tom, you're muted.
You're muted.
You were cutting in and out there, Matt, so I don't know what you were asking.
Sorry, Tom.
So what's the question? I'm sorry.
I was just saying that I wondered whether last year it was whether the Screen Actors Guild nomination cost La La Land the win, or whether it was just the preferential ballot that they used to determine Best Picture.
Right.
Do you have an opinion on that?
I do. I don't believe the SAG Ensemble mythology. I know it's stupid to bet against it and to say this because every time somebody does, we get humbled and proven again that it is an important secret tea leaf. But that said, I think that Moonlight won for other reasons rather than the fact that La La wasn't nominated for SAG Ensemble. It had the biggest ensemble at all. It had 500 singers and dancers in it. La La.
It's a bit of like after it, therefore, because of it, the post hoc ergo propter hoc, where you can sort of say that because this happened, which isn't always the case. What do we think? What's a category we haven't yet? Beauty and the Beast, Blade Runner, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Shape of Water. What do you like, Daniel?
Which category was that?
Production design.
Production design.
I think it's pretty. I feel pretty safe about Shape of Water. It's won everything it needs to. It won the Critics' Choice Award. It won the BAFTA Award. I think it won the Art Directors Guild also. So yeah, it feels pretty secure.
Yeah. Anyone else got a strong opinion on production design?
I mean, when I saw Shape of Water in the theater, I remember, I think it's when Sally Hawkins walks out of her apartment building and just seeing that set of Baltimore in the early 1960s. And I just went, wow. I was blown away by that. And just the way everything was meticulously designed, I know all of these films have that to a certain level, but it just stood out so much in Shape of Water that I cannot. After winning everything that it needs to, like Daniel said, I cannot imagine it losing.
I completely agree, and I would even say look out for it in costume design for that reason, because typically if you win one, you win the other. So Phantom Thread looks secure because it is about fashion, but sometimes they just don't care, and they'll vote for them together.
Well, I'm calling an upset in costume design. I'm predicting Beauty and the Beast for costume design.
Whoa!
I would love that to happen. I would love for that to happen.
I mean, they even if it doesn't have, I know a lot of people are saying Phantom Thread, but it's more limited in that it's only, it's Beauty and the Beast is more what you normally see with these costume design winners. It's this, lush, not just individual examples of amazing costumes, of amazing dresses, but it's this lush, grand expression of it where each and every character has, these, meticulously designed outfits. And like we saw this when I think it was Marie Antoinette beat Devil Wears Prada for the Oscar several years ago. We saw this when Anna Karenina, which really didn't have that much support anywhere during award season, outside of costume and production design, take home that Oscar. So that's why I'm going with Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, the only thing that gives me pause is Cinderella did not win, and I think there were those that thought it should have beat Mad Max Fury Road for its bandages and leather pants. That's my one pause about it, but I would love for you
to try tailoring leather pants for people in Australia.
Okay. Let's just not get into whatever kind of dirty joke you've got planned.
I had nothing.
Makeup and hairstyling.
Did you say makeup and hairstyling?
Yeah, makeup and hair.
Gary Oldman. Like, come on, Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour.
Yeah, no doubt. Just like the Iron Lady.
Yeah, there might have been a little bit of doubt if they had picked different nominees, like other nominees. I don't see that there's going to be a lot of support going to go to Wonder or Victoria and Abdul. Like maybe if they put in something like a Guardians of the Galaxy or
I, Tonya.
even or an I, Tonya, which could have won on the kind of larger Oscar train, sort of like Dallas Buyers Club did with its $200 makeup and hair budget, because it was the movie they liked the most. But yeah, with the absence of strong support around those other two nominees, I really think that might be even actually a safer bet than even Gary Oldman.
Tom, can Laurie Metcalf beat Allison Janney?
Yes, but it's going to take everyone realizing that this is the only category Lady Bird can win. There's going to have to be so much Lady Bird love funneled into that category. And the good news is we don't know how close Allison Janney has won these awards by. And my guess is it's not been a lot. So maybe if there's some people who remember her from Roseanne and really love this movie, it could help her. I would love to see that kind of an upset. But aren't you going to flip a table, Matt, if Allison Janney loses, your West Wing favorite?
I love both of those actresses, those movies, so I'd be pretty happy to see either of them win. I'd love to see Laurie Metcalf. So I'm pretty happy if either of them take it out. I won't be upset either way. Tom, do you have an opinion on this actress? Is it just Allison Janney's?
I used to think that that Laurie Metcalf had a really good chance here because she does play a more sympathetic mother of these two terrible mothers. And there's also kind of, she's empathetic and you do bond with her, and she's one of the first things you see in the first and the end of the movie. So she has this really lingering presence, Laurie Metcalf. But that said, the big cartoonish evil mother of Allison Janney is the kind of stuff they've been loving lately. Now, this was never true before. Yes, Anthony Hopkins would win for an evil role, and Kathy Bates did play a villain as well, and there were a few other examples back in the old days. And lately, look at some of the really ferocious, nasty villains that have won: Javier Bardem, Heath Ledger, J.K. Simmons, Monique, and many others. Christoph Waltz. These really cartoonishly evil, diabolically evil characters. They're the winking devil, and that is Allison Janney. And just because she takes it so ridiculously over the top is actually a good thing for her.
Yeah. Daniel, do you have any thoughts?
I do think Allison Janney is probably the softest front runner, but that's not saying much because they've all been, locked and like solidified in cement this whole like season, award after award after award. Allison Janney even won the Independent Spirit Award last night when Lady Bird had much more support, and won the Screenplay Award there, and Laurie Metcalf still couldn't beat her. I just think, honestly, we're going to look back at this season, and the Hollywood Foreign Press Association is going to just is going to feel really proud, because the way the voting lined up, whoever they picked, everyone else has just fallen right in line. And so really the 90 members of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association picked the Oscar winners.
If Three Billboards wins Best Picture, yes, the Globes will look very good tonight. But if not, that's they did get Moonlight right last year and foretold an Oscar, and they sure spread lots of love around for Three Billboards this year. So, but it's a very shaky lead that Three Billboards has. We've just a week ago, a majority of the experts at Gold Derby, let's recall, said Shape of Water would win, and now there's this overwhelming majority of the experts who say that Three Billboards. It becomes kind of like an echo chamber we experts create among ourselves. We have to be careful of that. It may have just happened, or it may just be that the victory of Three Billboards at BAFTA was telling enough for all of us to say, oops, we better take that more seriously, and so I'm picking that now. It's hard to say which of those two it is.
With best the one category we haven't talked about yet, adapted screenplay. I think it's one of the safest races of the night for Call Me by Your Name. But does anyone want to weigh in?
I think it's safe, pretty safe. But I feel like that's a category with one clear alternative. At least I think so, and it's Mudbound. And Mudbound isn't up for Best Picture, but it does have the same number of nominations as Call Me by Your Name. They both have 4, so we know there's significant support for both. But I mean, Call Me by Your Name is so far up front; it hasn't really lost anything along the way. So I really don't see it losing. But if there is an upset there, I do think it comes from Mudbound.
We're not picking Logan? Yeah. Oh, I need to change my prediction.
So we have now brought down each of the categories for the Oscars. Tom, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? My time has got about 5 minutes to wrap up the web show.
Well, I would like to talk about Best Film Editing because I missed your discussion of it.
Yeah.
This is my one out on a limb prediction here. I went for Baby Driver. Does anybody here think that could actually happen?
Yes.
It's too late for me to change.
It could.
Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely. It's one of those,
Yeah,
you're always fond of saying, Tom, that is that when they're voting for the most of something, and Baby Driver certainly has the most editing, and it is the most stylistically done. And I, for one, actually love it. I would love to see it win here. I think they're going to go with. I think they have a more on track record with war movies, and I think also with the creative way that the story was put together, I think Dunkirk is going to take this one. But Baby Driver is in my second place there.
Yeah. Hacksaw Ridge won last year, and it also won BAFTA. Baby Driver won BAFTA. So it was, that's that one category I went out, gave myself permission.
And even like a movie like Black Hawk Down won the editing prize without a Best Picture nomination.
I think back when there was only 5 nominees, it would have had a better chance because they wouldn't have had this everybody gets a prize mentality of those top 9 films. And I think it's hard to get past one of the 9 Best Picture nominees in any category. So, and I think Dunkirk just seems like their classic film. And I mean, remember when Captain Phillips won the Editors Guild, and they still went with Gravity that year. So
yeah,
I have it in second. So
yeah,
I think Baby Driver has a shot. I think, yeah, I actually personally had I thought it had that action movie edited in a Cuisinart syndrome a little bit, which put me off of it a bit. It didn't feel quite as elegant to me as the Dunkirk editing, which is so much about the editing, just because of how it's juggling 3 different timelines along 3 different time frames, and it does it in such a way that I found it completely understandable. It wasn't, it wasn't confusing to me at all. It felt so natural, and I give a lot of credit to that editing.
Yeah.
Could we just?
Daniel,
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just wondering, could we just talk about the shorts, because these are still egging me for crazy. So, Tom, I had just posted my predictions on Facebook, and I got a very nice message from Tara Khan, of all people. We are lining up on the live action and the animated short. I decided to take a limb out for Garden Party on animated short, and I'm sticking with The Silent Child. I know that a lot of people are thinking DeKalb Elementary, especially given the recent events the past 2 weeks, has a leg up there. But I think if you actually watch that movie, you're looking for solutions to a problem, and DeKalb Elementary doesn't actually propose anything. It's riveting for what it is, but I don't think it's gonna matter as much for this one. At least the way I see it. They usually like films that have children in a featured role, and it has a message to it. So that's why I think Silent Child's going to win there. And with animated, sure, I can't let myself think that the Academy is actually going to give Kobe Bryant an Oscar, the first Oscars after the Me Too movement comes to a rise. I mean, that is just going to look so tone deaf. Although, let's face it, the Academy has never been, on the forefront of forward thinking sometimes. But am I crazy for that? I'm just it's honestly, sometimes causes me a headache.
Watching the animated shorts, I actually watched all of them, and I thought, on the merits, Dear Basketball is fine, but it's so you don't look at that like a remarkable achievement necessarily compared to the other films. I'm actually going with Revolting Rhymes, which is a bit of a limb to go on myself. That was my favorite of the bunch. It's accessible. It has an A-list voice cast. It feels like the biggest achievement, at least in terms of length and scope and and all that. So I'm going with that, even though it does get unexpectedly dark, but so does Garden Party. And so live action.
I loved that twist. I loved it was great.
Liked Garden Party, but I got to the end and I was just like, okay, it didn't feel as elegant to me as the Revolting Rhymes twist. But live action, I'm going out on a limb. It was my least favorite probably of the bunch, but I'm going with the 11 o'clock. It's the apple in the bag of oranges. It's the charming comedy among, really serious, high-minded dramas.
Oh. Okay,
and documentary show, I'm going with Edith and Eddie.
I would love for Edith and Eddie to win, but it's going to be, I will say, when I saw Heroin, that was the one of all 15 of these shorts that I watched. I saw Heroin and I was like, that's a winner.
Okay, guys, the egg timer is gone. We'll go down the line. You can just give me your last thoughts each. Amanda?
Look out for Rachel Morrison in cinematography. She's got Black Panther behind her, and she's received more press than almost anyone behind the below the line. And if they know she's connected to Mudbound, that could be Netflix's best chance at getting an award outside the documentary category.
Yeah. Charles?
As much as I would love it to win, I don't think Roger Deakins is going to win, because I'm just resigned to just that not happening until he's knocking on death's door. And if he doesn't win, I will take out 3 billboards on Sunset Boulevard to shame the Academy for this.
Daniel?
I'm just going to be happy when they're over. It's so much like what the actors go through is, you know, and the people nominated, the campaigning they have to do. I'm always relieved to, like, okay, now we have a list we can put in the record books, and also it means that I actually never have to think about Three Billboards again. So regardless of what
fandom thread.
Tom.
Yeah, Daniel's right. It's 7 months this Oscar Derby lasts. We start predicting Best Picture and actor and actress in August every year at Cold Derby. So to actually be on the eve now of the big night seems almost anticlimactic. But, you know, this is one of those rare years where I'm actually rooting for a movie to win Best Picture, and I'm rooting for Three Billboards. It's been a long time since a movie that I was actively in. And this is the dangerous part of Oscar prognostication, of course, is that we get involved emotionally with our picks, and we root for them, and sometimes that's very, very dangerous. But I did love Slumdog Millionaire a few years ago and just actively rooted for it. And this year, I would just be delighted if Three Billboards wins. But that said, you know how we all feel that deep down, every year they always pick the wrong movie. So part of me thinks it's impossible that they could get it right. It's impossible.
Yeah. Oh, well, Tom, playing with fire yet again. And that's back a little bit after the show with another live show. We can break down all these winners. We'll see most of the panel again for that. And following the having live blogs, article updates. There's the forums. You can get involved in the discussion. And, yeah, we'll see everyone after the show. The Oscar party will continue.